Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Victor Ebere, and in this video I will teach you guys about how to use pivot tables in Excel. So the last video we talked about some Excel functions, sum if, count A, and the rest. So for this one we learn how to use the pivot tables. So I want you guys to use my data to work with the same data I'm using. So you can look at this link. So go to this link and download this data. So when you download it, you can now come back and start doing what I'm doing. So I have this already. So what I will do is I will go to the data pane. Then I'll click on what? Get data. Now if you're using an Excel version of, let's say, 216 or below, you might not see get data here. But navigate around data, I think you would see from file. You see from file, and then you can now click there and now get your data. Now before I get my data, let me go to where I have my data. So this is my data, sales. Now if I hover around it, you can see the type of file it is. Is what? A Microsoft Excel, separated value file. This is a CSV file. So it's not an Excel workbook, it's a CSV, separated value, mean CSV. So because it's a CSV file, I'm going to choose CSV in my Excel format. Now I think if I hover around these other ones, you can see this is what? Excel worksheet type. Microsoft Excel worksheet is not a CSV file, but this one that I want to use is a CSV file. So I'm going to go back to Excel. I'm going to go back to Excel. Let me take this down, the dates. Now click on get data. Then from file, I wouldn't choose workbook. I will choose what? test/CSV. That's the file type of my my data. I'll click on it. Then it takes me to where I have my data. I'll click on cells, click on import. Then it might take a while trying to load the data. Then I'll click on what? Load. Now I don't have to transform this data because it is a clean data. I'll click on load. Now in further in my further videos, I'll let you guys know what the transform data does. This is when you want to clean the data. But for now, we stick on the load. Then we load this data into Excel. So we load this into Excel. And then we give it time. Okay, so what's this? Okay, so this is the data. So these are data. Let me minimize this a bit. Let me zoom in. Okay, so these are data. We have area code, state, markets, market size, profits, margin, sales, COGS, expenses, marketing, inventory, budget profit, budget COGS, the margin, the budget sales. And if you take it to the right, we have product, date, type of product, and the type. Now when you have data, the very first thing you do is to get familiar with the columns. Now look at what is inside all the columns. So for this one we have state, we have the area code, looks like it's 203. Now if you click on this drop down here, you can see this drop down. If you click on it, it will show you the unique items here. There's 203, there's also 206, there's 209, there's 210, till there's quite much here. Then click on OK. Now this is the area code. Now for the states, click on this drop down here. So there is California, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Illinois, Iowa, Louisiana, then till I think the last is Wisconsin. Then you click on OK. Then for the markets, there is central, east, south, west. So I advise you to do this for all of these columns. So when you have questions, you know which column has which inside it. So if you scroll down to here, we have the type of product. We have coffee. If I click on here, I have coffee, espresso, herbal tea, and tea. Then if I click on the product, you have lots of them: amaretto, cafe latte, Colombian. Then if I click on the type, we have regular and decaf and regular. Okay, so now this is a table. It's a table because you can see all this drop down here. If not, then it's not a table. So if this drop down is not showing in any data you have, it's not a table. Okay, now we have to most times, if you don't name this table, Excel will name it for you by default. You can call it what, table 1. Now how do we know our table name? Now you have to click on any part of the table. Now you look up here, you see what, table tools, and then you see design. Now let me show you guys this. If you click on any part that is outside your table, if I click on here, this is V6. You can see I'm not seeing the table again. This is V6. It's outside my table. I can't see any part of my table tools again. That means I have to click on a part of my table. So this is a mistake that most people make. So if I click on any part of my table, I'll have my table tools, and then I have design. And if I click on design here, now if I click by this side here, I'm seeing my table name. This is what, sales. So sometimes you might have table 1, table 2, or whatever. You can rename your table name towards maybe sales. So let's use the same name. So assuming what I had here was table 1, I can easily rename it. I can just click on the backspace and rename it sales. And you click enter, and that's it. It has done the renaming for you. So that's about all that we're going to do for here. So we're going to go to a new sheet, and we're going to insert what we call a pivot table. So you can see this is sheet 2. You can also rename your sheet. Double click on it, and then you can call this data. So this is where you have your data. Click on enter. It renames it. So this sheet data is where you have your data. Then on the sheet 1. Now go to a new sheet. It mustn't be sheet 1, it might be sheet 3, it might be sheet 4 in your own Excel. Now go to a new sheet. Now rename that sheet. To rename you, double click on it. Then rename this pivot. Click on enter. So this is where we're going to get in our pivot table. So this, I can now remove this. This was my link description. I can remove this. Or let me just leave it. Let me just leave it. Okay, so to get my pivot table, what do? I'll click on insert. Now, but before I do that, I have to place my cursor where I want my pivot table to be. Now, if I place my cursor on this cell on E4, that's where my pivot table would be. If I place it here on K6, that's where my pivot table would be. Now, I want my pivot table to be around somewhere like A2. So I'll click on insert. Click on insert. Why is this hanging? So I'll click on insert. Then you'll see pivot table by the left hand side. I'll click on pivot table. Now it's asking me this. So this table slash range I'll give you the name of my table, which is what? Sales. Now, if it's capital S, you also use what? Capital S. So it's best to name your table names with what? Lower cases all through. Now, in case this is not checked, in case you didn't see this select table / range, you have to what? Check it. So in case it's not checked, you tick it. Now click on sales, type in sales. This is your table name. Then you click on OK. Then what this does is it creates this for you. This is a pivot table. So you can see by this right hand side, you can see our columns here. Area code, the state, the market, market size, profit, margin, sales, COGS. Okay. Now, if for any reason you want to delete your pivot table, now I'll show you guys what to do. So you go to what? Click on any part of your pivot. Click on analyze. Then you see select. Click on it. Then you see entire pivot table. Then this selects your entire pivot table. Now click on delete, not backspace. Click on delete. Then you see our pivot table is what? Out. Now let's go and get our pivot table again. So I'll click on insert, pivot table. Now the table / range is what? I'll type in the name of my data, which is what? Sales. Then I type in OK. Okay, so this is our pivot table. I don't like where this pivot table is. I want it to be here. Now you can also move your pivot table. Now my pivot table begins from C2, but I want my pivot table to be in A2. I can move it. So all I'll do is I'll click on my pivot table, any part of it. I'll go back to what? Analyze. Then I'll see move pivot table. I'll click on it. Then this asks me the location. So this is pivots. Then you can see C2. Then I'll just remove this C2 and type what? A2 and click OK. Then he has moved my pivot towards the A2. Okay. Now by the right hand side we have the columns in our data. So we can now go straight to answer the question. Then if for any reason you don't see, let's say, let me close this field. Then if for any reason you don't see your pivot table field, all you have to do is click on any part of the pivot table, right click, I don't know where this is hanging, right click, you see show field list, then click on it. So the field list come out again. Now let me just give you guys a brief intro of what this means. This is filters, columns, rows, values. Oh, okay, let's get in. Let's solve the first question. Then from there we now know how to use this these boxes. So let me go to where I have the question. So the first question says calculate the profit for both the small and the large markets. So like I said, you have to know what your data is, know what's inside them, so you can know how to answer the questions. So we asked to what? Get the profit for both the small and large markets. So if you should go back to our data, where can we see small and large market? So you can see it's in what? Market size. If I click on this drop down, I have what? Major and small market. So I think the large market means the major market. So we are asked to find the profit for both the small and the large or major market. That means we should find the profit for the entire data, because what is here is small and large market. So it's the entire data. So we just have to find a profit for the entire data. That's what this thing means. So all we have to do is check where we have profit here. It's quite simple. We scroll down to where we have profit. Where do I have profit here? Now there's profit, then there's also what? Budget profit. Now we are not asked to find the budget profit, we are asked to find the profits. So all I have to do is what? I'm going to hold and drag this profit toward this E values here. Whatever is here must be a numeric value. So this E means what? Summation sign. It means you want to add whatever is going to be there. So you can't drag months to this E value sign because you cannot sum months. You cannot sum years. You cannot sum something like, let's say, sales rep or names of persons. You can't sum them. You only put what is a numeric value in this field list here, this E values. And then after we've done that, look here, we have our answer. Quite simple. 259543. So this is the profit for the entire data. That's for both the small and the large or major market. Quite simple, isn't it? Now let's go to the next question. Now every question needs a pivot table. For every question, we're going to insert a new pivot table. So I can click on here, and I'm going to get in another what? Pivot table. I'll click on insert pivot table. Now click on, I'll write sales here. Then click OK. Then I have my next pivot table. Now it's very, very important that when you have a pivot table, give at least 3 to 4 line spaces before you get in the next pivot table. As you can see here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 lines before my next pivot table. So we have this pivot table. Now let's get our next question. So this question says, which state had the highest profits? Now you mustn't write these questions inside Excel. We can still do it to know the question you're solving. So which state had the highest profit? So we're going to drag profits from here into the E values, which you must have guessed by now. Then now we want to see all the states and their profits. So I'm going to drag the states from here to the rows. So all I did was to drag the state from here to the rows and then profit to the E values. So what do I have here? I have all the states and their profits. So which state had the highest profit? I wouldn't have to manually look through all of them to check which has the highest profit. So what I'll do is I'm going to sort this. I'll click on this drop down here, click on it, then I'll go to what? More sort options. Now because I want to find the state with the highest profit, I'll click on what? Descending. This means that the highest one should be on top. Now I wouldn't put state here because I want to find which state has the highest profit, and I don't just want to sort the state by C, F, I, by A, B, C, D. I want to check by their actual profits. So I'm going to click on this drop down and put what? Sum of profits. Now this is where a lot of persons make mistake. They always leave it at states. Now whatever that is here must be a numeric value. Sum of profit, sum of quantity, it must be a numeric value. So I'll click on what? Sum of profit. So don't make this mistake next time. Try to what? Always highlight whatever you have that is what? Sum. Then after that I click on what? Okay. Now the highest one comes on top. So we can see California is the state with the highest what? Profit. Quite simple, isn't it? Then if you scroll down, the list is New Mexico. Then I'll give like 3 to 4 spaces before I get in my next what? Pivot table. So I'll go and insert pivot table. I'll type in sales, which is my table name. I'll click on OK. I have my next pivot table. So let's look at the next question. This says which states had the highest profits in the small markets. So which states had the highest profit in the small markets? So what I'll have to do is I'll still drag profit to the E values, then state goes to the rows. So it shows me the profit of all the states. But now I have to involve what? The small market. Now I have to drag what? Market size. This is where I will see the small or the large market. Now if I drag market size into the columns, I don't like how this is. So it's giving me major market, small market, but I don't like how this is arranged. So I'm going to what? Take this to the filters. So I'll drag what? Market size to the filters. So I have what? All. Here, you can see market size is here, and I have all. So I'll click here to select only what? Small market. And I'll click on what? Okay. So you can see my market size is showing what? Only the small market. So we are being asked that which state had the highest profit in the small market. So I will go back and sort this now. Click on here. So go to the more sort options. Now remember descending since it's the highest. Then remember we have to change here from state to what? Sum of profits. And I click on OK. So Iowa had the highest profit in the small market. Quite simple. Then I'll get in my pivot table, type in sales, then I'll click on OK. So what's the next question? This says we are asked to find the average sales of regular products in the West and Central. Let me paste this here. So we asked to find, okay, let me do it here. Let me paste this here. Find the average sales of regular products in the West and Central. Okay, so average sales. So what will be here? I'll take sales to the e-values, not profit now. We asked to find the average sales. Now, regular products. Now, which column can we see regular? Let's go regular product. Which column can we see regular? Let's go back to our data. So here, I can see what? Regular here. That means what? Type in the column called type. So let's go back to the pivots. So I'll go to the type. I'll drag type to the rows. So I have the calf and regular as the type, but I'm asked for only what? Regular products. So what I'll do, I'll click on this drop down here, and then you can see here I have the calf and regular selected. I'll uncheck the calf. I'll uncheck the calf, so I'll have only what? Regular. Then I'll click on OK. Now in the West and Central, so where do we have West and Central? Let's go back to our data. Where do we have West and Central? Markets, no, not markets. Okay, I think it's markets. We have West and Central in the market. So let's go back to our pivots. Now we have to involve the West and Central here. So I'll go to markets. I'll take it to the filters. So market is showing as all. So we have to click on this drop down and select. Now because we want to select 2 or more items, we'll first click on this this box here which says select multiple items. So I'll uncheck all of them and then select only what? Central and the West. That's West and Central. I'll click on OK. Now you ask to find the average sales of regular products in the West and Central. So this is regular and the market is what? West and Central. But this is not our answer. We ask to find the average sales and not what? The sum of sales. As you can see, you'll have what? Sum of sales. We want the average and not the sum. So what do? We go to this e-values here. So we click on here, then you see value field settings. Click on it. Then you can see we have sum, count, average, and I'll click on average. Then click on OK. So I have what? The average of sales here. So the average of sales for the regular products in the West and Central is what? 196.8796296. Quite simple. Now the next question, I'll also have to get in my pivot table, type in my table name, sales, then OK. So what's the next question? This says we to calculate the margin for all the calf products in Iowa and the rest. So we can type in, put the question here. Okay, let's say put it here. Okay, so I'm asked to find the margin for all the calf products. So you can see that margin is a column. So I'm going to drag margin to the E values. So I'm asked to find the margin for all the calf products. Now where can we find the calf? It's in type. So we drag type to the rows. So we want only the calf. So I'm going to click on this drop down and on check regular. So I'll have only the calf. So the margin for all the calf in Iowa, Connecticut, Nevada, Ohio. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my, where can we find all these countries? The calf, I think that should be in state. So I take state to the filters and it's saying all. So we have to filter for only Iowa, Connecticut, Nevada, Ohio, and Oregon. So I click on this drop down. Then because I have a large value here, I'll first click on select multiple items. Then I'll first uncheck all of them. I'll click on this all, I'll uncheck all of them. Then I begin to check the ones I want. Iowa, Connecticut, Nevada, I'll check Connecticut. I'll check Iowa. What comes next? There is Nevada. I'll check Nevada. Then it's remaining Ohio and Oregon. Check Ohio. Then where is Oregon? Check Oregon. Let's confirm what you've ticked. Oregon, Ohio, Nevada, Connecticut, Iowa. Then we'll click on OK. I hope I'm correct here. Yes, I am. Click on OK. So this is the margin for all the calf products. So you have to find the margin. So the margin is 49516. You can see it's quite simple. Now the next question. The next question says calculate the margin in percentage for each market in the calf. So let's go back and get the question here. Then let's insert our pivot table. Insert pivot table. Why is it not responding? Okay, sales. Click on OK. So I'm asked to find the margin in percentage for each market in the calf. So I'll drag the margin to the A values, then each market, then I'll drag the markets to the rows. So it shows me all the markets and their margin. So now I'm asked to make it for only the calf. So the calf is in type. I'll go to type, to the filters, then I'll choose only the calf. Click on the calf, click on OK. So this is the margin for each market in the calf. But then we asked to express these numbers here as a percentage. This 65394 for the central, 26514 for the east, 28786 for the west, for the south, and 63838 for the west. We are asked to express this as a percentage, and there's a very smart way of doing that. So I'll click on this, I'll hover around this sum of margin, and I'll right click, and then I'll have show values as. So I'll go over that again. I'll hover around this sum of margin, I'll right click, then I'll see show values as, then I'll see what this guy here as the percent of grand total, and I'll click on it. Those numbers show as a percentage now. So this is the margin expressed as a percentage for each market in the curve. So, and that's it, quite simple. Now the next question, then you might ask, is this how pivot tables are? Yes, this is how pivot tables is quite easy to use. So get in the next pivot table, type in sales, then okay, then we'll have our next pivot table. Then what's the next question? So which product sold the highest in the east? So which product sold the highest in the east? So we can type our question here. So which product sold the highest in the east? So now, to know which one sold the highest, we have to check by the sales. So I'm going to drag sales here to the E values here. Then which product? So let's go back to our data to see where we have products. So this is product. We have products. So is it Colombia? Is it green tea? Is it cafe mocha? So let's go back to the pivot, and we're going to come here and drag product to the rows. Okay, so which one sold the highest? So these are all the products, and these are the sales. So how do you know the highest? I'll click on the drop down here. Remember, more sort options. Now descending. Now I have to change here to what? Sum of sales. Then I click on what? Okay. So Colombian sold the highest in. Oh, we haven't factored in for the east. We haven't factored in the east here. So where do we have east? I think that should be the markets. So take market to the filters, then click on east, click on okay. Still Colombian. Colombian sold the highest in the east. So and that's it. Now the next question, we get in our pivot table. Okay, so let's get our next question. So what was the minimum sales in the south for the regular products? We can put the question here, over here. So what was the minimum sales in the south for regular products? So the minimum sales, we drag sales to the E values. And what was the minimum sales in the south? Where can we find south? I think that should be market. That should be market. Then take market to the rows. Now I have to select only what? South here. I'll click on here. I'll check all of this. Then I'll select only south. Then click on OK. So what was the minimum sales in the south for regular products? I have to also what? Factor in regular. So I'll drag type to the filters. Then I'll choose only what? Regular. click on regular. Okay. So, but now this is not the answer to this question. We want the minimum sales. We've gotten south and regular products, but we want the minimum sales, not the sum of sales. We want the minimum. So we still go back here to sum of sales here. Click on it. Value field settings, and then we click on what MIN, which means what minimum, and then we click on OK. So the minimum sales in the south for regular products, this is for not all, for regular products is 41. Then the next question, I think that should be the last question, we get in our pivot table. Click on OK. Now it says which state made the lowest expenses. So we'll go back to, so it says which state made the lowest expenses. So we're going to, now how do we know which made the lowest expenses? So let's check through our, you can see this column here, total expenses. Drag it to the E values. So let's go to the market here. Which state? Okay, state. Drag the state to the rows. So these are the states and their expenses. So which state made the least? So we're going to click on here, more sort options. Now because this is the list, we're going to choose what? Ascending. So the smallest will be on top. Let me go back here. More sort options, ascending, and then you have to change here from state to what? Sum of what? This. And then click on OK. Now because we are looking for the lowest expense, you click on what? Ascending and not what? Descending. Then we click on OK. So New Hampshire made the lowest expense. And that's it for pivot tables. It is quite easy to use. Now before I end this video, I want to show you guys something else. Now you can, for you guys that want to practice, you can use what we call recommended pivot tables to practice. Now I'll click on the next line here, and I'll click on insert. Now I always choose pivot tables, right? Now I can click on what? This guy here, recommended pivot tables, and if I click on it, now I have to what? Put in my table name, which is sales. I'll click on OK. Now what this does for me, it recommends questions that I can solve from my data using pivot tables. So the first one is what? Sum of profit by state. This is what? Sum of margin by state. This next one is what? Sum of profit by market. I have sum of profits, sum of inventory, sum of sales, sum of area, sum of COGS. I have lots of them. Now if I choose the first one, profit by state, and I'll first click on it, then I'll click on OK. You see, it gives me the pivot table for it. So this is what? The profit by state. Then you can just write here profit by state. This is giving me the profit by state. Then I can now sort this to know the highest. Click on here, more sort options, descending, then sum of profits. So it will be what? Arranged from the biggest to the smallest. California had the highest profit. That's what the recommended pivot table helps you to do. So that will be all for today in pivot tables. In my next video, I'll talk about how to build dashboards. We'll still use pivot tables to build dashboards. So we'll still continue with using pivot tables. So I hope you enjoyed this video. So all you have to do is like, share, subscribe, turn on the bell notifications. And if I'm too fast for you, you can easily rewind and go back and watch the video over and over and over again. So see you guys in my next video. Thank you very much.